Welcome to Spotlight on Excellence, the show that equips you with essential business tools that will elevate your business to the ultimate level of success. I'm your host, Michael McDonough. And as an entrepreneur, like many of you watching, I've faced the same challenges that you faced on the road to success. And I found that one of the most effective ways to achieve success is to model success. In other words, find someone who has blazed the path and follow in their footsteps so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you just have to make it your own. Today we're focusing on how to create an effective goal plan, and we have a special guest host. I said I was your host, but today we have a guest host, my great friend, Kimberly Reyes. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be the one that gets to interview you.
Excellent. Well, I recently did a presentation on goal planning, and I felt like it would be better if somebody else interviewed me than try to interview myself.
So thank you again for having me, and welcome to Spotlight on Excellence.
Thank you very much. It feels weird for you welcoming to my own show.
You're an author, public speaker, community leader, president of the Chamber of Commerce, founder of Envision TV, and creator of Spotlight on Excellence, not to mention having a successful career as a financial consultant. It's been a long road from when you started your career as a stockbroker all those years ago. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you're able to bring those skills as a stockbroker up to the stage as a speaker.
Well, that's a great question. You know, I guess one thing I learned how to read scripts and make it sound like I'm not reading them, like a teleprompter, for instance. But I also was in front of big groups of people training them. For instance, what we're talking about today is something that I've trained hundreds of brokers on, mastering action plans for their success. So since I had done that so many times, it's something that I've taught to entrepreneurs since I was running a brokerage firm, and thought that this would be a great thing to bring to the show to help the entrepreneurs understand how easy it is to set a goal plan. Once you've set a goal, we can help you actually get to your goal.
Well, I want to let people know a little bit about you before we start talking about your new goal planning system, Mastering Action Plans for Success, or MAPS for short. But I'm going to turn the tables on you for a change and ask you a question that you asked me previously. Okay. So if we were to go and listen to your iTunes list, what kind of music are we going to find?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of different kinds of music, but the most recent thing I downloaded was Paul McCartney's last album called New, for all things. And I was actually inspired to download it because I saw a special on him where it said that he really keeps up with all of the most current music. And in fact, the album shows that, and that's the way I am. So if you see the rest of the things, you'll see Fall in Love by Phantogram, you'll see Demons by Imagine Dragons, you'll see everything from 30 Seconds to Mars, and Do I Want to Know from Arctic Monkeys.
Well, that's a lot of music, and that tells a lot about your personality. And I've known you for a long time.
Yes, you have. In fact, one thing I wanted to make sure we got to was this photograph of us, you and I, and our executive producer, Joey Garrity. Joey, come on over here. She's not coming. She never comes from behind the camera. But this is us, and we're out at Alameda Point looking over into San Francisco. I don't know if the picture doesn't show it, but we had a glass of wine.
Well, that's one of the best things about being an entrepreneur, is that after a speaking engagement, we could go with a bunch of friends, sit, have a glass of wine, look back at our beautiful city, enjoy time together.
That's correct, and I hope that we're able to do that today after this show.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about your new goal planning system, Mastering Action Plans for Success, or MAPS for short. How did you develop MAPS?
Well, I kind of touched on it a minute ago when you asked me how I brought this to the stage, because the reason I did that is because, well, I can't take credit for the system, by the way. This is something that I've put together after having been taught that many, many years ago. And so I thought it was something that I had taught a lot of brokers in the past, and something that I could now put together in more of a one-stop product that people, entrepreneurs watching, could get, learn how to build a plan so that they could reach any goal that they want. So I can't take credit for developing it, but I have put it together.
Well, it's a fabulous system. So let's go ahead and go to the video and we'll watch a little bit.
Okay.
How many of you are planning to be mediocre for 2014? That's not a joke. You got, well, maybe it is, because nobody plans to be mediocre. You plan for success, right? And I'm here to say sensational success. Success like you read about. Why not plan for sensational success? So I put together something that is called Sensational Success in 4 words or less. And so I'm going to move pretty quick. I'm not going to give you that whole presentation. We won't have time to do the actual plan. But the first word in that 4 words is belief. Now, belief is defined as a feeling of absolute certainty. A feeling of absolute certainty. It is probably the most important concept ever revealed to mankind. And we've been taught since we were very young that belief is the key to success. You believe that? Yes. Anybody remember the little train that could? It's true. From our toddler days, we've been trained that belief is the most important thing to achieving success. So that's the word number 1. Once we've done this plan, you set your goal, you have to believe. Number 2 is enthusiasm. Now, enthusiasm is a great equalizer. You may not know how to do this yet, but if you can muster up some enthusiasm, you'll get the power behind you. You'll get the power and a likelihood of success if you just go about it with unbridled enthusiasm. How many of you have unbridled enthusiasm about what you do for a living? And about hitting your goals for 2014, the year of you. It takes belief and it takes enthusiasm. It really does. And there's a third part, determination. Now, this is a very important one. It's also a great equalizer. It's also probably the most important predictor of success. Do you believe that if you set a worthwhile goal, you could just hit it without being determined? Probably not. Determination is very important because, you're going to have some ups and downs. You're going to have some seasons that aren't as good as others. You're going to hit some bumps in the road, and without enthusiasm and without determination, those things can stop you. No matter how hard you wrote on that paper, no matter how much you believe in it, if you don't have some enthusiasm and determination, these bumps in the road can stop you. And that's why these 3 words are very important in order to achieve the plan that we're going to show you how to build today. But there's a 4th word. The presentation is in 4 words or less, so those are the 3 words: belief, enthusiasm, and determination. But these are things you've all heard before, right? This is not a new thing that I'm telling you. Something that we all need to be reminded of, but there's a 4th word that ties them all together, and that's what we're here to talk about today, and that's achievement. The good news is that everyone in this room can achieve. And that is by just setting small goals and putting one foot in front of the other until you achieve it. And you start to build on those achievements. You start to build your enthusiasm. And that actually builds your ambition and your determination. So when you start to achieve some of these smaller goals, it really feeds the rest until before you know it, you've actually changed your entire belief system.
Okay, that was fantastic. After you understand the mindset you have to have, what do you believe is the first step towards reaching your goal?
Well, that's good, because before you ever get to the goal plan itself, you have to know why. The very first step of success is to know your why. So we've put in the master dream list. And on the master dream list, you list everything you ever wanted to do. Big things, small things, things you never thought you could accomplish, but if you could accomplish, it would be your wildest dreams. And I say on this, don't be realistic. There's no reason to be realistic when you're trying to figure out what your dreams are. Your dreams can come true, and if you're not realistic, even those dreams can come true. If you have a plan like this, it can help you get there.
Excellent. So how does your system help someone take that first step?
Well, it is the master dream list. That is the very first step. And then from there, we take you into actually setting the goal.
Great. Let's watch another piece of your clip.
So what I'm passing out now is your master dream list. On your master dream list, write down everything you always wanted. Do not be realistic. This is not for realistic dreams. This is for your real dreams. The ones that you would think Donald Trump had, or Steve Jobs had, or things that you can't even imagine are possible, but you would love it to happen to you. All of that goes on here, because those are the reasons you do what you do, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were still out there. So it really has nothing to do with the money, but it has to do with what the money will do for you.
What are a couple of things on your master dream list?
Uh-oh, I'm going to be in trouble now. Well, first of all, that changes, and people watching should know if you're doing this system, This is something that you can add to, subtract to, because your dreams are going to change over time. But right now, my biggest dream is to make this show a wild success and take it to another level that we haven't had yet. And first of all, we have our new studio, which is great.
Beautiful.
We've got you,
Thank
which
you.
is part of that. And you know, I hope to get it on international channels and get it all over the nation and all over the world. And PBS is a big goal of mine, to get this show on PBS.
Absolutely. So what else do you have on your list?
Well, I'll give you one more because there's something I need to do pretty quickly, and that I need to go back to Hawaii. I used to take vacations in Hawaii, and I haven't been there in a couple of years. I've got a place over in Kaanapali in Maui, and I need to get back there. So that's a big part of why I do this, and it's on my dream list.
And as your friend for a long time, I didn't know that you had a house in Hawaii, and now that's going to be on my dream list. I'm
Well,
going to add that to my list.
All right then, it's a promise.
Okay. All right. Once we know what we do want, how do we begin to develop our plan?
Okay. Well, the first thing is, and on this plan, what I talk most about is an income goal. You can use this plan for spiritual goals, family goals, that sort of thing as well, but I teach income goals. As teaching stockbrokers, you know, we were always talking about commissions and what our income was going to be. So on this plan, I'm using $100,000 as the goal. But the first thing is decide what you need it to be. Some are going to be more than that, some may even be less than that, some might be way more than that. But first of all, we have to establish the goal. I'm not doing that for you, I'm just going to get you to the goal. So we write down in a positive way, like always positive statement, I have reached $100,000 or I will reach $100,000.
I think this is so important. Most entrepreneurs really leave this part out, so I think this is so important part of your plan. So explain what you mean by backing into your goals.
Well, backing into your goals means once you've set the goal, then we have to determine what action steps are needed for you to get there. So most successful people start with a goal and then determine what those action steps are. So we're working backwards. And to know the action steps, you actually have to know your metrics, and we'll talk about that in the presentation a little bit.
Excellent. How do we use our master dream list in developing our plan?
Well, that's the next step. Once you've stated positively the goal, then we're going to move on to your quantitative reasons and your qualitative reasons for reaching the goal. And I'm going to talk more about that in the presentation, but this is where you really transfer the dreams and the goals from your master dream list onto the second part of the master action plan.
This makes it concrete. Let's go and watch another clip.
Very good.
This that they're passing out now is the actual master plan. This is the plan of action. And there's a number of things that this plan of action requires. Every goal needs a deadline. You'll notice that on this sheet, there's a deadline for attainment. Right, December 31st, 2014. Because we're talking about a one-year goal here. You can use this plan in any time frame that you really want, but we're going to talk today about your 2014 Year of You goals. So your deadline is December 31st, 2014. And if you haven't hit them by December 30th, you still have a day. Always state your goals in the positive tense. There's a couple of ways to think about this. You can say, I'm going to use just for a number, $100,000. Okay, so you could be less or more depending on your goal, but I'm just going to use that because it's a nice round number. It's right in between probably a lot of people's goals. So I'm going to say I will earn $100,000 in 2014. I will, not I want to, I will. A better way to say this is I have earned $100,000 in 2013, as if it's already done. Either way, it's already done. You have to believe that. You have to make that decision, but always state your goal in a positive tense. Whether it's I have done it or I will do it. It's not I hope to do it. Maybe one day I'll do it. It would be nice to do it. No, I will do it, or I have done it. Always state in a positive way. The next part says quantitative, right? Remember I said that the money isn't just things, but in this part it is. This is where the measurable part comes in. We're going to talk about measurable a little bit later, but in this case, you need to be able to measure it. So we're saying $100,000. Where's the money going? What are you going to do? Why $100,000? Well, first of all, you might want to put like 40% $25,000 for taxes. Unless you have a really good accountant. Are you a good accountant? Okay. Yeah, so see Lauren, she's got a very good accountant. Specifically, what are you going to do with that goal, with that money? Because if you don't know where it's going, you have no incentive to make it. All right, so the second part of that is not quantitative, but qualitative. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is where, I'll give you an example. When I first became a stockbroker, I've learned this, I've done this myself for over 25 years, however long, I'm not going to tell you exactly, it's over 25 years. My very first one of these, my goal was $100,000. And I thought, in the qualitative part, one of the things I put in there is so my dad would be proud of me. I later found out he would have been proud of me no matter what I made, because that was money. But in my mind, if I made $100,000, he would be proud of me. That's not quantitative, that's qualitative. Another qualitative might be so I can take care of my family. I mean, we've already shown what I need is money ways to take care of my family, but emotionally, that is important to me, to be able to take care of my family. To have the pride of hitting a worthwhile goal. Because if I set a goal and don't hit it, I'm not going to have the pride that I would have if I do hit it. Do you see what I'm saying? These are more of the emotional aspects of what hitting a goal will do for you. So you've got quantitative, which is really specific in the dollars. Spend all of the money. And if you have some left, put it in your savings. And on the lines of savings, $20,000, whatever it is. Always spend all the money in the quantitative. And in the qualitative, really think about what is it going to do for me emotionally if I hit this goal. Sometimes that's more important. And for different people, some people might have quantitative reasons that are most important. Some people might think qualitative reasons are more important. In actuality, they're both very important.
What's the difference between MAPS and a business plan?
Well, that's a really good question. MAPS comes after the business plan. The business plan is more of a macro document. So this is where you plan what your market's going to be, what you're going to sell, or what your product or service is going to be. It may go into the methods you're going to sell it. It's the big picture. The goal plan that we're talking about is the specific action steps that are going to help you accomplish the business plan. So there are two different things. You need both.
And what makes your system different from other goal-setting systems?
Well, I'm not so sure it's that different, but the one thing that I will say is that this focuses on your action. Many people, they say only 3% of people actually write down their goals, and I'm here to say writing down your goal isn't enough. You have to write down your plan to reach the goals, which includes all the actions that you're going to take on a daily basis.
Well, I would disagree with you a little bit because your plan is absolutely different from the others out there.
Well,
it's really wonderful. So what else do the viewers need to know to ensure that your system will get them to their goal?
Well, I touched on it a minute ago, and that's the metrics. You have to keep records so that you know, for instance, how many calls it takes you to get a lead, how many leads it takes you to get an appointment, or how many appointments it takes you to make a sale, and then how much money do I make per sale? So if we're backing in, like we were talking about before, we have to have the figures to back into. And so that means knowing your metrics by keeping records. So you might have to take about 6 weeks of record keeping in order to develop those metrics, and we do provide you with a master tracking sheet so that you can figure out your own metrics in order to back them into your plan.
This is so important. Let's take one more look at a video.
Okay.
So far it's been easy. On this page is where we actually identify the specific action steps that must be taken on a daily basis. Now, I said you can do this the goal is a yearly goal. Now you can break it down into shorter goals. It's not your goal really, it's the action steps that you need to take on a shorter basis. You can do this on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Eventually you have to break it down to a day. Whether you do it on this one, or you just put in something more general here, and then use another one of these to break it down on a day. So I'm going to say this. I already told you my goal, my obstacle was not making enough calls. The solution was make enough calls. The action step is make 300 calls per day. don't do that today, but that's what I used to do, and that was on my action plan. The next step was not talking to enough people. Talk to more people. The action step specifically is talk to 50 people per day. Now you'll notice there's a place for a deadline out to the right of these. I'm putting every day for that one, for these, because these are things I have to do every day. This is not something I'm going to do eventually. This is something that's going to happen starting tomorrow, every day. Not seeing enough people. See more people. See 10 people per week. Now when I was new, they told me that you need to make 300 calls a day, talk to 50 people a day, get 10 leads a day. That's 50 at the end of the week. Out of those 50, you can set 15 appointments. Out of those 15 appointments, you'll see 10 people. Out of those 10 people, they'll have the check ready for you. 2 of them will have the check ready when you get there. 2 of them wouldn't buy from you no matter what you had to say. So that leaves me 6 people to actually try to sell. And so on this, I'm writing those specific numbers. These are metrics in my business. You probably have, there's no doubt, you have personal metrics. You have some of these categories that I'm talking about. I don't know if it's number of calls, maybe you don't cold call, so you can't do the breakdown I just did. But every one of you is in some sort of sales. Whether you think you are or not, you're in some sort of sales. If we have a doctor in the room, or is there a doctor in the room? You're in sales, right? You got to sell the patient. You're a chiropractor, right?
Yes.
You got to sell the patient on the fact that this adjustment's going to make you feel better. So you got to see more people every day, right? I mean, so we all have metrics in our businesses. I know we have a lawyer in the room. Who's the lawyer? Steve? Are you the only lawyer here today?
No.
Oh, Louis is back there somewhere.
He's a real lawyer.
Oh, he's right over here. So as a lawyer, you got to sell me that you have the legal solution to the problem that I'm bringing you, right? Every day. So we're all in sales. We all have metrics. We all have to see people. We all have metrics that we have to meet. Now, at the end there, I'm going to pass out what I call the master tracking sheet. This was my actual tracking sheet. The fact is, what I'm saying is by measuring, by keeping records, which is what this master tracking sheet allows you to do, it allows you to measure your metrics. What I had to do to produce a certain result last year. And if you haven't, it takes about 6 weeks to get a good average. And that's you. It's just the reflection of you. Then you use that reflection to come up with these action steps. So you know, I said 100,000 was what we're using as an imaginary goal. And I know it takes me this amount of people to see to make this amount of money. Therefore, divide that by 100,000 by that number. I have to see this many people. And in order to see this many people, I have to make this many calls. Simple math, right? It really, really is that simple. If you believe. How many people don't believe it's that simple? Good, because it is. If you go about those calls with enthusiasm and determination, because there's going to be people who do say no, and it's your enthusiasm that gets you over that, and it's your determination that makes you make that next call. So when you set a goal, successful people always set the goal and work backwards. So that's why this sheet is set up like this. We set the money. If we've done our record keeping, we know what we're worth on a by-call basis, or a by-appointment, or a buy-sell, whatever it is, and then you work those numbers backwards. It just tells you what your activity level has to be if you didn't improve at all.
What can we expect from your MAPS goal planning system in terms of success?
Well, that's a great question, because you can expect to succeed at any goal you set for yourself, no matter how large or how small. Because by knowing your metrics and knowing your goal, it's simple math. Just know the activities that it's going to take, because you know what each activity is worth, and then plan for that so that you're going to reach that goal no matter how large or small.
Excellent. So before we go, I want to ask you one last question, as I ask each of the guests at the end of every show.
Wait a minute, I ask it at the end of each show.
I'm going to be asking this question at the end of every show. What is one of the most important pieces of advice that a mentor has shared with you that you'd like to pass on to other entrepreneurs to help them be more successful?
Well, it's a big piece of advice, and it has everything to do with this Mastering Action Plans for Success, because my very first manager as a stockbroker told me that success is not determined by your knowledge. There are a lot of broke people that are very smart, but success is determined by the actions that you take. So with the knowledge that you have, it requires action in order to hit your goals. And that's why I've developed this plan and put it out there for the people to be able to hit their goals.
That's so important. I can't wait for people to really see your product and see the system. It's not like anything else that's out there.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for being here, by the way. It was great to have somebody sitting and asking me questions rather than the other way around.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I look forward to doing more in the future.
And I expect you to. And for all of you out there watching, be sure to visit www.envisiontv.com for more information about my map system. That's www.envisiontv.com, and you'll find more about my map system. You'll find more about Kimberly there, and you'll be able to find more about how to make your business work as hard for you as you do for it. And as I always close the show, remember, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, just make it your own. And we'll see you next time on Spotlight on Excellence.